All right, this video is going to be a quick assembly of the version 1.3 of the PCB board battery system, right? Okay, the only difference between this board and the ones that everyone has and the ones that you're going to be building most likely is that at the end of this month, they're going to start shipping with markings that say top and bottom, right? And those were, I'm going to put them there so that for ease of assembly, right? When I'm writing instructions, because these boards are, you can mount stuff on both sides, right? So you can mount them on the bottom, you can mount it on the top, depending on what you want to do with these boards, right? So I want to be able to say, for this one project, you got to mount your components on the top side of the board or on the bottom. But for you watching this, if your board does not say top or bottom, then the side with the trace fuses, that's the bottom. And obviously the opposite side is the top. So the top is what we're going to populate today, because most of the time you're going to want to do that, right? So you're going to need the board. Another one of the small differences is going to be that these ones are going to start having the corners rounded instead of sharp like they used to be. Like most likely they're on yours. All right, so you're going to need the board. You're going to need a 4-cell and a 3-cell holder. You're going to need your connector here, 16-pin connector, and you're going to need your little fuse. And that's going to do most of the boards that way. And then at the end, I'll talk about some of the other extra pieces that you might want on some. All right, use flux core solder, okay? Flux core. Don't try not to put a bunch of flux everywhere and then not clean it up. That will cause problems later on, and it'll just look messy. So get yourself some flux core solder. This is from Amazon. It's really cheap. Also, use a good soldering station, one preferably that you can adjust the temperature, right? This one goes all the way to 480, but for some of these like small work, you're probably good to go like 350 or something like that to do the small pieces. So here we go. Let's start with the connector. And it's really useful if you do all of the boards at the same time so that you minimize mistakes, right? So here's where it's at. This here has an extra pin for data. That's for future use. Don't use it now. We're not using it because the product is not available. And so you're going to start at the P plus, right? And mount it there. Flip it around. Put it in the table. Use another connector to make sure the board is the same height, right? And then with your soldering station at around 350, then you start soldering these guys. Do the one side like this. Feed the solder from the opposite side of the soldering iron, and then flip it around, right? And then do the other side. And it's really easy. You just make sure it's heat. Don't hold the thing too long in there because you start melting stuff. And just like that. Look at that. It's pretty clean. Not a lot of flux anywhere. It's pretty clean. Okay. Next thing you're going to do is the fuse. The fuse goes right here. In fact, I should probably put the letters. I should mark that as fuse for the next iteration. Okay, this time around we're using 5-amp fuses because the 4 amps were heating too much under normal use. So I decided to add a little bit an extra. So what you're going to do is you're going to put solder on one of the pads. Then you're going to grab the fuse with tweezers, and then you're going to melt that pad. There we go. There we go. Also, try not to keep too much. Try not to keep the soldering tip there too long, because then you overheat and you messed up the fuse, right? And just like that. Look at that. Okay, that's good, right? Yeah, that's good. Okay, so that's that. Next thing you're gonna do is flip it over on the top side, and you're gonna mount the holders now. There we go. There's that one. Positive, negative. I like to use the ones inside the round, the round little bubble. So positive, negative, and you match the positives with the positives here. Flip that around. Put your soldering iron all the way high to all the way to 480, right? So that, because these ones are a little bit tougher to do. This soldering is much better. Get this one. Here we go. Then you go that one. I guess the thing with soldering, I'm not an expert in soldering, but you gotta do it until it's shiny. If it's not shiny, then it's not hot enough, right? So there you go. Alrighty. Yeah, this is not hot enough to do this quick. The bigger the tip, the longer it holds the heat, right? When it's touching there, those parts are removing heat from the tip. So right now it's heating up. It's coming back up to temperature, and then as soon as I'm melting this stuff here, that it's robbing heat from the tip. So if you have a too small of a tip, you're gonna struggle more than if you have a big chunky one. So you might want to change your tip, a smaller one to do the fine work here, and then change to the bigger one to do this side. I typically have 2 soldering stations, and one with the big one and one with the small one, but I actually got rid of them recently, and I got this new one. So right now I only have this one, so that's why I'm doing everything with the one. It's possible to do it. It's just you might be able to do it quicker if you have 2 of them. So here we go. Look at that. All right, here are some extra pieces that you got with your kit. I don't remember how many of these pieces are available in the kits, and these connectors too. So not all of the boards are going to need these. Most of the boards are going to be just this, right? They're going to go right on top of each other, and they're going to connect to each other with the ribbon cable and this connector, and then the brass standoffs that go here, right? That's how the power connects from one board to the other board. The front ones are electrified, these ones and those. The back ones are not. These are not electrified, and you could electrify the one if you put the fuse down here, but that's only in special cases where you're going to be running high power applications and you need symmetry in the power distribution of the board, so that the first cell doesn't discharge faster than the last one, right? But most of the time, if you're going to be making a regular pack, then you're just gonna ignore this, right? So at the very top of the board, or the very top board, you might want to put one of these XT60 connectors, right? And it's probably the opposite one. I don't have one of those in here, but this is probably the male. There's the female, and the female is probably better. Make sure that you put the plus and minus. Make sure you do it right. If you put them backwards, then that's not going to be a good thing. Here, so the same thing. Bigger the tip, the easier to solder this. Using 2 soldering irons sometimes helps, and it makes everything much quicker. Then the other pieces are these. You might decide that you don't want to use the connector to remove the power out of these boards. You might want to use, a cable And these are 4M, threaded stands right here. And so you might use those as the output of these board, plus, negative, negative and positive. In other applications, you might want to use these in the back to mount this board to something like an enclosure. That's how I'm using them, to mount these boards and big stacks of these boards on enclosure. Every so often, every 10 or so boards will have these in the back, and then I will put those right up against the metal cabinet there, drill a hole, put a screw in there, and that's how those will hold. Remember, these are not electrified, so you can totally do that on a metal enclosure, right? So that's what these are for, and you get a few of them with every one of the kids. Eventually, as I develop more of this system, the amount of these guys, the extra little devices that I put in there, might change, right? And so I will make videos and share with you guys why all that's up. But this is basically how you put these guys together. All right, I hope this helps. Thank you for watching this video. See you guys in the next one. Bye.